Hello everyone and welcome to this week's video tutorial. This would mark the start of a new chapter, the Central Cannon versus the Sandwich Horse Defense. The Sandwich Horse Defense, a brief history, became very popular back in the 1970s and 80s, mainly through the efforts of Grandmaster Ronghua. It became a plausible alternative to the Screen Horse Defense. And many of the ideas that were given in the Sandwich Horse Defense were born from or inspired from the Screen Horse Defense. It has a much rather different temperament as compared to the Screen Horse Defense or the same direction cannons. I've also added a whole section on this website dealing with Grandmaster Ronghua Sandwich Horse Defense Treatise. So without further ado, let us begin today's lesson. Okay, central cannon. Now in the Sandwich Horse Defense, the right horse is moved first because the cannon, if this horse were moved, the cannon would not be allowed to play c8 equals to 6, which would be the sole move of this opening system. Now with this move, black threatens to play c6 plus 5 should red play h8 plus 7 to develop his left horse as a proper horse. Now with this move, by doing so, red's development of the pieces on the left flank would be slowed greatly, and instead of direct attack, black would slowly build out his potential, try to command the important lines, and that is why this is more of a positional opening in a particular sense. Now red would usually play r1 equals to 2, and black would develop his left horse as a proper horse, thus obtaining the Sandwich Horse Defense formation. Now at this point in time, the opening systems that will diverge along many routes, and in today's board we will be discussing red playing p7 plus 1. Now this is not so commonly seen nowadays. Instead, p3 plus 1 is more seen, or other moves are played. Now but nevertheless, because of many similarities to the Screen Horse Defense, p7 plus 1 remains one of the major variations in this opening system. Now with p7 plus 1, red would slow the development of this horse, and also prepare to develop his left horse at the appropriate time later on as a proper horse for attack. And likewise, black would usually play p7 plus 1 to negate the effects of this move. But as can be seen, the development of the black chariots would fall slightly behind because black would now have used up 3 moves to position his horses and cannon, and also allow for development of this horse. Now in this board we'll be discussing r2 plus 6, whereby red would immediately threaten the horse over here. Now this is an okay tactic, but it's not so commonly seen nowadays. So thus far you can see elements of the central cannon versus Screen Horse Defense, and it is advised for players or for studious learners of the game to refer to similar positions in the Screen Horse Defense for inspiration and to understand both openings better. And black will play a4 plus 5. This board. Now this would be the position of discussion, whereby black first makes a prophylactic move of beefing up his central file and also protecting the Pell corner cannon, which would be one of the major attacks, major targets of attack in this opening system. Now, as I mentioned in other videos, one of the congenital weaknesses would be this horse. So red would now try to target this horse for attack, etc. Also with a4 plus 5, since the cannon is protected and central file is beefed up, black is prepared to play h7 plus 6 to attack. Now there are 2 main variations that were discussed: c8 equals to 7 and h8 plus 7. Okay, and But before we continue, playing c8 plus 2 at this point in time is not a good idea. Although the main line of thinking behind this move is that Red would move his cannon away, try to control the riverbank, and thus allow for development of his left horse with h8 plus 7. But if this was so, Black would readily offer a trade of chariots, which Red would usually accept. If he did not, and chose to pressure the horse, Black would play c6 minus 1, preparing to play c6 equals to 7 to attack. And because the cannon had moved, this horse would now be vulnerable, and Red would now focus his attack on this flank. And also, because of this situation, the effects or the potential of this cannon would be greatly decreased. It cannot do much, and Black would have clawed his prey, seized the initiative, and now could take control of the game. So usually Red would accept a trade of chariots, but in doing so, now this flank would not, Black's left flank, or any danger on his left flank caused by the red chariot would now be negated. So Red will play p3 plus 1 to allow for development of this horse. Black would make a very nice move, e3 plus 1, allowing the pawn to cross the river, but in doing so, he would now develop his right chariot. And in terms of development of pieces, we can see that Red had only developed 1, 2, 3 major pieces, and his left flank is cramped. But more importantly, even if Red developed his left flank, there will not be any good intersections for the horse or the cannon, etc., to move, and instead this cannon will become a weakness because it cannot move away. Red might have to sacrifice a pawn or waste one move to move his cannon to a better position. So yeah, Red would not have gained nothing for his efforts. Moreover, this pawn will still not be an immediate threat as long as it did not advance. If it advanced, Black could develop his horse as an edge horse to threaten, and Red will fall further behind in terms of development because 1, 2, 3 moves would have been used for the pawn. So Black would still be in contention because all his major pieces were developed. So as can be seen, the central cannon in the sandwich horse defense, positional play, or there's more emphasis on the development of the material. So now let us go to variation A. Variation A, Red will play c8 equals to 7. Now, under most circumstances, this is not recommended. The reason for this is because with c8 equals to 7, although Red will be attacking the horse, Black will simply easily protect the horse. And besides, more importantly, because of c8 equals to 7, Red's original intentions of developing the left horse as a proper horse cannot be possible now, cannot come to fruition. So also, Red would have to find ways to try to deal with this horse. But in this situation, this is not the usual circumstance, and it is considered to be a plausible alternative. And with c8 equals to 7, Red shows that he is intent on speeding up the speed of his attack. So Black would play a prophylactic move of e3 plus 5, thus allowing his chariot to be developed as the kingside chariot, and also to protect the horse in preparation for p7 plus 1. So r2 equals to 3 to pressure the horse. Black protects the horse, and Red will now develop his horse as an edge horse. And Black would usually counter with c2 plus 4. This is a commonly used tactic in similar situations. Now, with the cannon over here, Black would now threaten to play c2 equals 7 to threaten the chariot and thus capture the elephant to mount an attack on this flank. Now, would it be a good idea for black to play c2 plus 1, threatening to play p3 plus 1 to capture the chariot? The answer would be no, because red would first develop his left chariot and then capture the pawn and thus prevent p3 plus 1 from happening. Black would not have gained anything for his efforts, and instead black would have to use another move to try to position this cannon at a better place, possibly c2 plus 4, etc. But nevertheless, black would have wasted one move playing c2 plus 1. And also with c2 plus 1, because the chariot had to protect, the possibility of developing the chariot as r1 plus 4 for attack would now be not be possible. So c2 plus 4 is advocated. Red would push the central pawn forward to attack. Black would now develop his kingside chariot. And this chariot would make it to the pawn rank just in the nick of time. Again, black would still be threatening the pawn to attack the chariot. So usually black would prevent that from happening with c7 plus 1, and because this cannon would be protected by the horse, and now the chariot would be threatening the cannon. So black would not have anything to worry. He would simply retreat his cannon back to the bottom rank for defense and be prepared to reorganize his attack with c2 equals to 3, c2 equals to 4, etc. Both colors would be pestering each other, neither color would have the obvious upper hand, and black would have a playable game. So this would mark the end of variation A, whereby c8 equals to 7 is played. This is considered okay in this particular situation. Now in variation B, red would bite the bullet and still insist on developing his horse as a proper horse. Now this is a relatively interesting variation that was given in this book. Now black would actually force black's hand to see if he would play c6 plus 5. Now other commonly played variations at this point in time would be to play c8 plus 2, c8 plus 4, which will be discussed in a few boards later on, or even p5 plus 1. And with c8 h8 plus 6, black would usually go ahead and play c6 plus 5. Now it would be imperative for black to do so. If not, if red were allowed to develop this horse to the riverbank, black would be in all sorts of trouble, and black would be at an advantage. So, and also the threat or the original intentions of this cannon would not be met, and this would result in a big loss in the initiative of in red's initiative. So with c6 plus 4, red would trade cannons, deliver a check, capture the cannon. Now black would try to offer a trade of chariots, which red would usually accept. If he did not and played c8 r2 equals to 4, black would now play r8 plus 5, and red would not have gained anything for his efforts. So h7 minus 8. After trading chariots, the situation on the board has been relatively diffused. Red develops his left chariot. Black counters with the central cannon, and red will actually adopt the sandwich horse defense. Now, an interesting phenomenon with this opening system is that there are several variations whereby both colors will actually trade their formations for each other. So it is it is relatively common to see red starting off with the central cannon and later adopting the sandwich horse defense, and likewise black will usually start with the sandwich horse defense and later adopt the central cannon. Bishop plus 7, 5, and p3 plus 1. It will be an even situation for both colors. Now as can be seen in this board, uh, positional play and the emphasis on the speed of attack is actually more critical than a blatant attack along a particular file or area on the board. Now in this board, several things to note. A4 plus 5 over here is a good move to first consolidate the central file and also protect the cannon, thus freeing the other pieces to move later on, and it would be a correct time to do so. As for the horse, black would not have to worry too much because say in variation A, after playing R2 plus 3, black could always protect his horse in this manner, and black would not have to fear too much. But nevertheless, as can be seen from variation A and variation B towards the end, black will still be able to hold his own in this opening line, and that Reds, on the other hand, would appear not to have much options to continue his attack, and perhaps this is one of the reasons why Red's P7 plus 1 is not so commonly seen nowadays. Instead, P3 plus 1 is perhaps the more popular variation. Again, I play the sandwich horse defense quite a bit. It's quite fun. The build up of potential is usually very quick, and once black is able to, after consolidating his defense, he will be able to counter very decisively and very powerfully. So let us take a quick review of the board in black from the eyes of black. Okay, central cannon, sandwich horse defense, and P7 plus 1 would be the main theme of discussion for the first 4 boards in this chapter. Black counters likewise. R2 plus 6 to threaten. A4 plus 5, a good move for black to protect. Now it is suggested for players to remember this move. Variation A, C8 equals to 7, and variation B, C8 plus 7. Now, if red went for the riverbank cannon so early, it would not be a good idea, because this will allow black to offer a trade of chariots, which usually red would have to accept. But after accepting, the situation will be diffused. Red's original attack will slow down quite a bit. Black would be able to organize his forces much better and still have a playable game. And even though the pawn was allowed across the river, because black had developed his pieces much faster, black would usually have be considered to be superior. Variation A, C8 equals to 7, attacking the horse. Black protects, attacks the horse again, protects the horse. 5-7 cannons, and a commonly used counter, because red was too slow in developing his chariot on this flank. Black would play out, would threaten to capture the pawn, and thus black cannot play R9 equals to 8. Instead, he will have to find a way to deal with this situation. P5 plus 1 is a usual tactic, and in doing so, the chariot would now get to the pawn rank to protect the cannon in this manner in the nick of time, thus applying a blockade. And again, as can be seen, the material on red's left flank would be underdeveloped, so red would usually play C7 plus 1 to block the cannon and threaten the cannon, to block the chariot and threaten the black cannon. And black would retreat his cannon and organize his attack again. Both colors would be pestering each other, but black would have a very, very playable position. Variation B, red actually forces black's hand with H8 plus 7. And as the original intentions of this move was to threaten to slow down the development of the red pieces, black must make this move, and after trading cannons, another another trade of chariots, the situation would be diffused. If he played r2 plus 4, black could play r8 plus 5 and command an important line. And after trading chariots, the threat of this chariot would now be diffused, and red would actually have better development of the material. His horses could be developed from the center, or h8 plus 7 followed by h7 plus 6, etc. Both colors switch formations, and it would be an even situation for both colors at this point in time. So again, the principles demonstrated in this board are very important and very useful for everyday play on the internet. And if you like the work that I've been doing, please do subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up for this video. Thank you.